Welcome to Wawas on Wire. Today we're talking about Wan Ahmad Fayhsal, Wan Ahmad Kamal's analysis of internal political maneuvering within the National Alliance. And this isn't just, typical political back and forth. We're looking at what sounds like a full-blown crisis narrative. Wan Ahmad Fayhsal, Wan Ahmad Kamal, the Machang MP, he's painting a really stark picture. It's about internal warfare, specifically focused on the relationship, or maybe the deteriorating relationship, between Chairman Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin and his deputy, Dato Seri Hamzah Zainudin.
Right. And what's really crucial for you to grasp here, I think, is the paradox. The tension isn't really coming from failure. It's actually stemming from one figure's rising influence, Hamzah Zainudin's influence. It's being seen by some, perhaps the old guard, not as a strength, but as a direct threat to the current leadership. The analysis suggests a pretty concerted effort to sideline him. So we really need to understand why. Why this perception? Why this marginalization?
Okay, let's unpack that. This idea of structural sabotage. Faysal's basically claiming there are specific groups within the National Alliance who are, genuinely worried about Dato Seri Hamzah's standing, and they're actively trying to push him out, or at least neutralize him. It's not about policy differences. It sounds like pure power dynamics.
Absolutely. And when you look at the situation, there are sort of two big factors, intertwined pressures, really. First, it's very internal. There's this palpable feeling among some insiders that Hamzah's growing stature, his profile, is starting to overshadow Muhyiddin Yassin, diminishing the chairman's authority, basically. The deputy's getting too much spotlight, and that's seen as, unacceptable by the chairman's camp.
So kind of like corporate politics, yeah. The star performer who looks like they might be eyeing the top job, but then there's the second factor involving the Islamic Party. That makes it way more complicated, doesn't it?
That brings in this huge external validation for Hamzah. Islamic Party, arguably the most powerful component in the National Alliance. They reportedly trust Hamzah. They see him, quite explicitly it seems, as the best person to lead the National Alliance into the next general election. And that kind of endorsement from such a vital partner, internally, that just ramps up the pressure, ramps up the tension against him significantly. It creates this dynamic where Hamzah's effectiveness, his actual competence, is almost twisted into a perception that maybe he's more loyal to the Islamic Party than to the chairman himself.
And Faisal says this isn't something new, right? This pushback against Hamzah, it apparently goes back quite a way, back to when he was just the appointed Secretary General. What was the thinking then among his critics?
Well, the mindset then, according to this analysis, was pretty blunt. He was appointed, so he needed to, know his place, stay in his lane, definitely not outperform the chairman or grab too much media attention. When he did start getting prominent, getting praise for, say, operational successes, those detractors, allegedly, made sure the chairman was aware, constantly reminded maybe, that this guy needed to be contained.
Which brings us to that more shadowy element, the alleged third party. Faisal mentioned this, didn't he? Some disruptive force stirring things up between Hamzah and Muhyiddin, especially when Hamzah was getting positive press. What's the thinking there? Who would this third party be?
Yeah, the third party idea is interesting. It kind of allows Faisal to explain the rift without directly blaming Muhyiddin Yassin, doesn't it? It deflects. If such a party exists, their motivation would likely be, preserving the status quo, keeping the existing power structure intact by taking out the perceived challenger who's rising too fast. It suggests deliberate political maneuvering, trying to create mistrust right at the very top. Calculated stuff.
Okay, so things seem to really escalate after the 15th general election, GE15. National Alliance didn't form the government, but the moves made after that election, they really seem to have cemented Hamzah as an internal target. What happened?
Yeah, the big surprise, or perhaps the big move, came from the Islamic Party right after the election. They decided to back Hamzah, who was still just the Secretary General at the time.
Yeah.
They backed him to be the opposition leader, not Muhyiddin. Faisal noted this apparently caused real surprise and probably deep concern for Muhyiddin Yassin.
And why would the Islamic Party do that, go against the established hierarchy like that?
Well, according to Faisal's analysis, it boiled down to effectiveness. Proven effectiveness. The Islamic Party saw Hamzah as the guy who could actually integrate the whole National Alliance campaign machine. He showed he could get the Islamic Party's machinery and the other component parties working together, like practically on the ground, creating a unified front. That skill, that operational success, that's what got him the external backing. But simultaneously, it just solidified him as a threat internally to those who maybe prioritized loyalty over that kind of competence.
And that success, that effectiveness, led to pretty harsh consequences, didn't it? Faisal himself, seen as aligned with Hamza, got suspended. And then, even more dramatically, 5 others were expelled outright. One Saiful, one Yan, the Tasek Jilugor MP, plus 4 division chiefs. What was the official reason? What were they accused of?
The official line was about involvement in statutory declarations. Now, for you listening, statutory declarations in this context are basically formal statements, signed documents from MPs trying to show they have the numbers to force a leadership change. So in short, they were accused of being part of a move, maybe a plot, to oust the current leadership by trying to prove Muhyiddin had lost majority support within their own ranks. And the response was immediate, very decisive, a purge, essentially.
Wow, okay. That's fast and quite brutal in terms of dealing with dissent. But let's talk about the timing of this purge. Faisal really zeroed in on this, especially with the Sabah state election coming up. His question was really direct. Why do this now? Why expel Wan Saiful, a prominent MP, just a week before campaigning starts in Sabah? Couldn't it have waited?
Exactly. And this raises serious questions about strategy versus, well, internal power consolidation. Faisal's point is that this kind of public infighting, these high-profile expulsions right before a key election, it's just self-destructive. Shatters unity, distracts everyone, makes the party look chaotic to voters. It strongly suggests that protecting the current leadership's position became more important than actually winning the election in Sabah.
And Faisal didn't just criticize the timing. He floated a pretty provocative theory about why this chaos is happening. He talked about a possible prosperous Malaysia Trojan horse. What does he mean by that?
That Trojan horse language is pretty loaded, isn't it? Implies the internal mess isn't just internal. It suggests that agents loyal to their rivals, maybe the current government coalition, are deliberately making things worse, exploiting the split for their own gain. By raising this, Faisal is trying to shift the blame outwards, away from Hamzah's faction, even away from Muhyiddin's internal critics. It's an attempt to frame the crisis as external sabotage, maybe hoping to rally the base against a hidden enemy instead of fighting each other.
Okay, so given all this, the infighting, the looming Sabah election, the high stakes, what's Faisal's solution? How does he think the National Alliance can stabilize things?
His recommendation is very clear, very direct. Dato Seri Hamzah Zainudin. He should be the one leading the National Alliance to steady the ship, especially heading into the Sabah state election.
And why Hamzah specifically for Sabah? That state has its own unique political landscape.
Well, Faisal argued that, yes, national unity is key, but you also need flexibility on the ground. And the reality in Sabah is that the Islamic Party, well, they traditionally face challenges gaining traction there. It's just harder for them electorally. So the other component parties in the National Alliance need to be incredibly unified, really cohesive, and under strong, effective leadership to compete effectively in Sabah. And Hamzah, given his track record of bringing different groups together, organizing the machinery, he's seen, by Faisal at least, as the leader who can actually deliver that needed cohesion in a difficult electoral environment like Sabah.
So it really leaves you with this fundamental question about the opposition's path forward, doesn't it? Can a political movement really succeed long-term if its best organizers? If the people actually good at building coalitions and winning support on the ground are seen by the very top leadership as threats, it feels like they're being forced into a choice. Loyalty to the chairman or effectiveness.
And that brings up a critical point for you to think about.
Yeah.
When does doing your job well become a political liability? If the very thing that makes a deputy strong, like that key support from the Islamic Party, gets used against them internally, then maybe the price of confidence is just too high for that party structure to handle right now.
So consider this. If those expulsions really did hurt their chances just before the Sabah election, was that action genuinely about securing the party's future? Or was it more about, well, self-preservation for those already in power? What do you think?
Remember to like and subscribe for more videos like this.